I saw this illumination that was moving with respect to the stars. We were smart enough to not say, Houston, there's a light out there that's following us.
While Neil and Buzz were on the lunar surface, Neil switched to the medical channel and spoke directly with the chief medical officer, saying, they're here, they're parked on the side of the crater, they're watching us.
2, 1, 0.
Is there anything scarier than unknown danger, than something unexplained happening to you? This episode's stories are true encounters with the unknown, the unexplained, the otherworldly. Tonight, we are leaving Earth, leaving time. Welcome to another episode of the Nightmare Society. Alright, so this happened when I was about 9 or 10, and I've spoken about it to my family and friends, but I've never really been able to figure out what really went down. My parents and most of my buddies just think that I was dreaming or experiencing sleep paralysis because of how active I can be when I sleep talking, walking, etc. I live in a quiet, gated community, and after 10 p.m. there isn't that much activity as everyone is usually at home. My house is 2 stories and my room is on the 2nd floor. In my room I have one large window that faces the street, and I often sleep with the blinds open so that the sun will wake me when it rises. Now, on this night, I was sleeping pretty soundly until I was woken up by a terrifying metallic sound. I'm 22 now, so the details are a little fuzzy, but I remember it sounding kind of like a garbage truck and a leaf blower combined, but about 10 times louder, and it sounded as if it was right outside my window. Remember, I'm on the 2nd floor. I woke up in a panic, and when I looked out my window, all I saw was darkness. The only issue is that whenever I would look out my window at night, normally there would be a glow of streetlight or some moonlight. Never just pitch black. The sound continued, and of course, as a child, I screamed out to my mother in fear. I clearly remember her walking into my room with such a calm demeanor. It was like she didn't even hear the noise. I kept asking her, actually yelling, what the noise was, but she simply said, "It's okay, everything is fine," as she closed my blinds and walked out of the room. After this, I don't remember falling asleep, but I awoke in my bed around 10 a.m. the next morning, which is much later than I usually wake up. I did remember the events of the night prior and confirmed it to myself when I noticed that my blinds were indeed closed. When I went downstairs to eat breakfast with my family, I immediately asked my mother about what happened. She then told me that she never went into my room that night and didn't hear me call for her or any loud noises. I asked my brother, whose room is right next to mine, if he heard anything, and he also said that he was undisturbed during the night. They all told me that it was probably just a nightmare, but it seemed so real, and I remember leaving my blinds opened before I went to sleep. I tell this story every once in a while, and everyone tells me the same thing. But after some research and digging through subs, I was wondering if maybe I was abducted. I've had a couple weird experiences with the paranormal, but I never considered that it could have been something alien that happened that night. What do you guys think? I was about 8 or 9, and my mom tells me we are going on a day trip to meet her high school friend. Cool. I grabbed my Game Boy Advance because I know my mom's friend has kids my age and wanted to show them up in the racing game I had. I overheard this from my mom talking with her friend at her house. They told me to leave the room because they needed to talk about adult things. Little, innocent, curious me wonders what exactly are adult things that I can't hear. Were they gonna throw some new juicy cuss words out? Well, Mom's friend had a little girl who would sleepwalk at night. It started when they moved into their new house in Northern California. It was a suburban area, but not too suburban. New neighborhood with a lot of empty homes and forest patches in between each community. She was about 4 years old, and they found her one night in the backyard just sitting there. After that incident, they decided they needed to lock her in the room at night and bar up her windows so that she doesn't end up in the woods nearby or anywhere besides her room, really. Mom's friend and husband wake up to a loud boom on the side of the house in the middle of the next night. Felt like something hit the house because everything shook. They check on their boys. They're good. They didn't hear anything and they go back to sleep. They check on their daughter, unlock the door, and realize she isn't in her room. They start to freak out, then hear a knock at the door. They open it. It's the effing sleepwalking 4-year-old daughter. They ask her where she's been, and she said with the men, and points down the street. Pissed off, Dad sees 2 guys in coats walking down the street. He yells at them and starts sprinting at them. Mom's friend said coat guys didn't react at all. Coat guys turn the corner. Dad turns the corner, and they're gone. Mom and Dad check the locks and the windows. No tampering. They notify the police, who pretty much say there's not much they can do but keep an eye out. Sleepwalking 4-year-old daughter is fine. Isn't scared at all. Just tired and goes back to bed. After that, my mom didn't understand why I was scared as hell that night. She believes the girl was abducted but refuses to tell me what happened. Even my dad tells me that he can't tell the story. Says it's for my mom to share if she wants it shared. But overhearing this when I wasn't supposed to hear it had me tripped out as a kid. Watched The Fourth Kind later in life and was scared of that movie too. Friends all laughed at me saying it was stupid, but they didn't know about my mom's friend's story. This next one is a comment in reply to a post. Holy shit, something similar happened to me back in 2005. I was living out in the boonies with my mom. I was 15 years old. I had been talking with a girl on and off for weeks, and I was on the phone with her. It was just before dark when this chick was telling me that if I come over to her house, she will sneak outside to hang out with me as soon as her parents go to bed. Luckily, she only lived like 2 miles away, and I had a bike. Horny teenage me didn't take long to decide right then that I was going to make that trip. Luckily, my mom always went to bed super early as well. She texts me sometime after 10 p.m. that her parents went to bed. It's on. I leave for her house. As I'm riding my bike down these dark country roads, I see almost exactly what you described you saw. Orange, glowy lights in a triangular formation. They were just hanging there, still. I stopped for a second to get a better look because there were some trees obstructing my view, and they started looking bigger the more I looked at them. I started to feel this really weird sensation that I can only describe as similar to vertigo. I completely black out. I wake up and I'm still on the side of the road, but not where I was before. I got super confused and couldn't quite figure out where I was for a minute. I pull out my phone to look at the time. It's dead. My bike is nowhere to be found. I start heading down the road in what I thought was the direction I came and suddenly realized where I was. I was in the opposite direction of my house from where I started. Like I was on the same road, just on the other side of it. I turn around when I realize this and run home. I get home and plug in my phone. It's like 2 a.m. and I have a bunch of missed calls and texts from that chick asking where I'm at. I go to bed and sleep like shit for the rest of the night. The next day I call that girl and I tell her what happened. She sounds skeptical. I ask her what time she called me the first time last night after I left. She said she called me at around 11 p.m. and it wouldn't go through. I left sometime after 10. I know my phone was at nearly full battery because it was on the charger before I left the house. I do find my bike later that day in the same place I remember stopping. It was just laying there on the side of the road. I remember having really crazy dreams and a bad headache for a couple of weeks after this happened. You know, after the first couple of weeks, I never really had dreams much anymore. I still don't. Not sure if it's related at all, though. I can't say for sure it was aliens or abduction or whatever, but I'll be honest. I'm not normally an anxious guy, but being outside alone at night has creeped me the fuck out ever since. Staring into the night sky gives me anxiety when I'm by myself now. Fuck everything about that night. I'm not sure I want to know what happened. I haven't really told anyone about this memory. It has stayed with me since it happened what is somewhere close to a decade ago. I was probably 9 years old. Completely normal day, and then I go to sleep. I wake up in the middle of the night despite normally being a heavy sleeper. I don't know why, but I immediately decide moving an inch would be a terrible idea. So I stay still and shut my eyes tight. I don't know why. Then I feel something. You know how you can feel what's happening around you even if you're not looking, as long as you're paying close enough attention? Imagine that, except amplified by about 400%. I could feel two presences in my room. Not near my door, no, but right next to my window on the opposite side of the room. I kept my eyes shut tight, but it wouldn't have mattered because it was dark as dark could be anyway. After remaining near my window for however long, I began to feel like they knew I was awake. Then they started moving over to me. I can see their exact path that they took through my room in my mind based on what I felt. Almost comparable to how you might imagine Toph would see in Avatar. Adrenaline-fueled heightened senses, I suppose. They both stand right in front of my bed. I'm laying on my side facing toward them. The one closer to my head bends down and gets near my face. I don't hear anything. I can only feel them. They stay like this for another short while, and I am panicking beyond belief, concentrating on keeping my mind in check so that I can stay alive. I pray to God that they go away, and then peace. I have no idea what happened after that. I don't even remember waking up, despite this memory of the encounter and peace that followed it being extremely vivid. I had ruled it off as demons, as that falls in line with my beliefs, but after reading a few other encounters, I don't know what to think. I would not believe in aliens if not for this experience, and the next ones. The same year, perhaps 5 months before or 5 months after, I was taking out the trash, and once I got to the end of my driveway and dropped off the cans, we had a really long driveway. I looked up to search for the two dippers, as I always liked to do. I didn't expect to see about 5 shapes in the air. One, which took up maybe 1/12 of the circumference of the sky, if that makes sense, was composed of 4 bright lights assembling what was perhaps a trapezoid-esque shape. It was emitting what appeared to be similar to a headlight on a car, except huge, of course. It was stationary and revealed no stars behind it. To the right, there were 2 big, bright, stationary lights. Seemed more like individual ships, much larger than stars. Between them was a moving assembly of 3 red lights forming a perfect triangle going up, I guess. It almost looked like it was following the 5th entity, which I think was just one of our satellites. Small, fast, zipping on by. I would have thought the triangle could have been an airplane, of course, but it looked way too big for how it was moving and how far away it appeared to be. I've seen this triangular ship 2 other times as well. Once when I was even with other people, though it was too fast for anyone else to see it, We were in a moving car and it went out of view. I have no explanation for these events, only the vivid memories and assurance that I didn't dream these events up. On top of these experiences, I also noticed another similarity between me and people who claim to have been abducted. A strange fascination, almost obsession with aliens when they were younger, which suddenly stopped, at least for a while. I've also felt that odd sensation that many others have expressed when certain things are shown or brought up. You begin shaking, quivering, and tearing up. You don't know why, but you know you have to get away from what triggered it, which in my case is 100% every time related to aliens being shown or discussed in the media. Doesn't happen every time aliens are brought up, but when it happens, it's when aliens are brought up. Am I blowing all of this out of proportion? Is my experience similar to anyone else's? Please let me know. I feel kooky. A huge thank you to our contributors, Jurassica Sex, Earth Navigator, Apokolyptyk, and Mr. Beans. If you would like to support the channel, you can do so by liking, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Until next time, stay safe.